Hi, I'm Nina. Welcome to Nina in the Kitchen, where today we are making prime rib. When I saw this, I just had to have it. It's something that you make for special occasions, and if you're lucky enough to do it, you do it once a year. So that one time a year when you do it, you really don't want to mess it up. And so first let me talk a little bit about this cut of meat before I do anything else. Back in the day when every neighborhood had a butcher, what they would do is called dry aging meat. They had meat lockers. They would hang pieces of meat that were half of the animal. And nowadays, meat is so expensive that if you find a butcher, they don't have a dry aging room. On occasion, you'll run into a restaurant that will have one, the steakhouse, for example. The other way to age meat is to wet age it. And you see those in cryovac packages, and that's fine. That meat is delicious, it's tender. But dry aging is just different. What it does is it helps tenderize the meat. It gives it more of a buttery finish in your mouth. It makes the meat, some people say a little stronger. I don't taste that at all. So what I did is I bought this at the supermarket, brought it home, and I dry aged it in my refrigerator. Yes, you can do that, which is pretty cool. It takes anywhere from 1 to 7 days for a roast. 1 day actually does help the dry aging process. This was 3 days, and here's how I had it. I just took the styrofoam tray that it was on, put a rack over it, and that's it. It was in my fridge for 3 days. You flip it about once a day. So now you have this meat that you've aged. You're going to notice that all of this meat on the edge is dry, and you just want to shave that off. This one's still pretty wet, so I'm leaving it. I'm not going to touch that. The fat, as you can see, has dehydrated somewhat. And I'm going to tie this up for you. This is just a 2-rib roast. It's 5.5 pounds. On a 3-rib roast, which is about 7 pounds, what happens in the oven, and you can see it's starting to happen here, is it separates, the meat will separate from the bone. So you don't want that to happen. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can cut into the bone, cut all along here, and then tie it up, and that will work. Or you can leave the bone on, like I'm going to do, and just tie right around. Let me just do that while I'm talking about it. I'm just going to tie around in between these bones. And the reason for tying, again, is just to keep this all in one very beautiful piece of meat rather than letting it separate. The other thing that you do not want to do when you buy something like this, an expensive cut, is overcook it. So I would rather have people wait a little longer for dinner than let this thing overcook, because you can't recover from that. So what I do is I try to emulate what they do in restaurants, which is so see, here's my meat now. I'm just going to put this in the skillet and get it browned on the fat side. What you do in restaurants is they have special ovens, and they cook their meat at 250 until it reaches an internal temp that they want to keep, 130, for example. As soon as the rib goes into 130, they can drop their ovens down to, I want to say it's like 160 degrees, which is a very warm oven. It's not hot at all. And they can keep that meat for 24 hours. Well, our ovens at home probably don't go down that low. So what you have to do is you want this low and slow. That seems to be the best, because if you bring this meat up into a 350 oven, I've read some recipes where they go way up high, 425. What happens is when you're resting the meat, this meat temperature internally goes up as much as 10 degrees. So you're gonna have to pull that meat out before it looks like it's done. So I found this way to be the best. I try to emulate the restaurants, like I said. So my oven is on at 200. I'm gonna start this in the pan. And this is a heat-proof pan, so I'm just gonna use this. It's a 12-inch skillet. Now, if I had a 3-bone, that would be kind of tight in here. I would put this in a roasting pan, but I like that this has low sides. I have a convection oven, so this is what I'm going with. This is beautifully browned. I'm going to put it in my 200-degree oven, and I'm going to pull this when it's 130 because we like medium rare. That's going to take about 3 hours. This looks so good. Smells delicious. So this is at 130 right now. I'm taking it out of the oven. I'm going to leave this in there because I'm just curious to see how much it goes up in temp just as residual heat keeps cooking this roast. So I'm just covering this with some foil. This roast needs to sit for, I think, about 30 minutes, and it took 2.5 hours in the oven. And one thing that I forgot to tell you is that before I put it in the oven, I had it on the counter for about 2 hours out of the fridge so that it kind of came down to room temp. The internal temperature when I put it in the oven was 68 degrees. So that's it, see you in a half hour. Okay, well, this has been resting for 30 minutes exactly, and it only went up 2 degrees, and that's because I cooked it low and slow. So it went up to 132. I'm just going to take this out and slice a piece for you. Get the string off. Now, when you get a rib roast, well, you wouldn't get the roast, but when you buy prime rib in a restaurant, what you want to see if you're ordering a medium rare is you want to see how this fat is still rather juicy. It doesn't have a hard crust on it. I'm just going to do a thin slice here so you can see. Oh, this looks really good. Perfect. So here's the anatomy of a rib. Of course, this is the ribeye. This part around the edge is the rib cap or the decal, and that is also known as butcher's butter because it is so delicious. So all of these little bits that you would think is trimming, please eat those. That's a really good bite, and I'm going to take a piece of that right now. Perfectly cooked. It's juicy and tender. Really delicious. We'll be eating good tonight. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And next time, bye guys.